Hello. Um, I wanted just to just jump on cam really. I've been really busy the last couple of days doing some YouTube stuff, doing courses, obviously having my shoulder operation. But I was sat here tonight and I was playing some music and I came across Oasis track, Stop Crying Your Heart Out. And when you look at the lyrics, and I know I've written about it, it is very poignant. But for me then, I started to think to myself, because Oasis reminded me a lot of my younger days. I was living in Manchester in the early 90s when Britpop really started to take off. And, that was a really interesting journey. And it sort of took me back to think, where have the fundamental changes in my belief system, in my culture, in my values, in my vision, in a lot of the things that I do, and it's been really heavily since my dad passed 11 years ago, but it's been a steady awakening that has been amplified, I think, in August of last year. And I've just written something on my Julian Jenkins Medium page, and it's talking about the time I went to Arthur Findlay College. Now, if you don't know who Arthur Findlay is, Arthur Findlay was an amazing man that gifted the Spiritualist National Union a tremendous building called Stansted Hall in Stansted in London. And that building has been used to help teach psychic mediumship work for many, many years with some of the leading people around the world. And I was, for some reason, and there's a bigger backstory, but basically I went to Glastonbury on several occasions and was always told I was going to go there, to the point that the last time I went, I actually jumped in the White Springs Chalice. As if anybody's been to Glastonbury would know, and you can research it. It's bloody cold. It's in a cave. It's in I suppose it's a cave, but it runs down, the water runs down from a very spiritual monument called the Tor. And when I went in there, I just had this huge, massive sort of epiphany rush. And it was like, boom, it was like incredible. And it said, you just got to go. So I went, I booked on a course, got on a train. Funny enough, strangely enough, thinking about it, it was 6 days after I had my right shoulder operated on. And I got there and I didn't know what was going to happen. I was staying in a room on my own, and I went to these, my first meeting was in the evening, and I checked in, and it's like you're having to walk around and trying to get your bearings. And I was walking through the gardens, and as I was walking through the garden, this gentleman joined me and said, "My name's Eric with a C." And I was like, right, okay, what does that mean? Well, it's not with a K. My Eric is with a C. And off he walked. And literally, I walked, 20 yards, and on the right-hand side there's a monument there of some of the great people, like a plaque, and there it was, Eric Hatton, who was very well entrenched, if you like, in the Spiritual National Union, but did a lot of work for spirituality. And I see him as one of the forefathers of where I am today, let's put it that way. And I continued to walk, and I walked in, and we started to build this. And one of the questions I was asked was, why am I coming on a course? It was to do with evidential mediumship, but why am I here? And my point was that I wanted to immerse myself in the energy of spirit and work with spirit and be around spirit and be around some real serious people within spirit. And I've been in football all of my life, and one of the things that I spoke about was, the ability to be able to sit and work with world-class footballers is the analogy. And these were world-class people. And there were so many things that happened over the period that really amplified my awakening. And what it did for me was it just gave me confirmation of the things that I'd been shown, the things that I'd been taught, the moments that I sat with spirit downloading, and all of these things. And there was this huge affirmation, if you like, that my calling was spiritualism, spirituality, mediumship, and psychic work. But in principle, albeit I've done a lot of, evidential readings, more the calling towards teaching, and that then all backed up with some of the stuff that I'd done when I was turned 40. Spirit's coming close. Turned 40 in the hills of Alicante when I went on a spiritual retreat and learnt mindfulness-based stress reduction. which was really interesting. But I want to come back and say that, you know, one of the reasons I'm doing this video is that spiritual awakenings aren't just always about bright lights and Jesus and God stood at the end of the bed and you know, turning water into wine or doing whatever it is. Spiritual awakening can be a progression of your thought changing, your conscious mind changing, you're developing and doing things that ordinarily you may not have done before, but also the way you see things, the way you work with things, the way you want to help people, is all very different. And you know, I remember just very quickly the depth of feeling and wonderment, if that's a word. And it's great because there's some probably people on here that can clarify and back proof the story. But I was sat next to a lady called Laura, who is from America, and she's an amazing lady, a paramedic. And at the time I had this Fitbit watch on, and I was just sat in the audience, and it was an open evening. It was students' demonstrations. It was coming towards the end of the evening, and I felt my heart go crazy. Okay, absolutely berserk, and it was pounding out of my chest to the point that when you looked at my Fitbit, it was actually running at somewhere around about 135, 137 beats per minute. My resting heart rate is about 50, 59. So, you know, nearly treble. And I hadn't been running, I hadn't done anything. And I was like, wow. And Laura said to me, she said, "You're good job you're sat next to a paramedic because you're in the zone." And what does that mean? I was like, wow. So I thought, you know, and I knew I wasn't going to have a heart attack, but I certainly knew there was an energy, there was something manifesting taking place. And my guide came in and said, "You have got a very strong connection with a gentleman that wants to come in and he wants to go and talk to his son." And I was like, what? So yeah, he wants to come in. And this gentleman came in, and I hear, and I feel. The gentleman came in and said, I don't want any questions. I don't want anything. There will be no no's. I just want to give you the information. I'm going to give you, we're going to get in, we're going to give the information, and we're going to get off. And it was like, wow, yeah, okay. So, but bear in mind, we were being assessed. And I think at the time, Lynn Probert was assessing, I think, or it was either Lynn or Tony Stockwell. And I said to the girl who was going to get up, I said, "Do you mind if I go up, because I've got something quite pertinent here." And I walked up onto the stage, and I said, "I've got a message," and I explained what had just happened, and I closed my eyes, and I don't think it'd be fair for me to go into the detail of the message, but at the end of the message, I said, look, you know, before I started, I said, there's all going to be yeses, there's going to be no no's, so I'm just going to go. It wasn't trance because the spirit hadn't come in, wasn't working through me. He was working with me, not through me. And we just give all of this like information. And right at the end of the information, I went, and he's come to see his son, and he tells me he is no ordinary Joe. And with that, I opened my eyes, and I said, "Do anyone understand that?" And this gentleman put his hand up, he was about 2 rows in, and said, "I can take everything you just said. That was my dad. And my name is Joe." And I got goosebumps now. It was a monumental piece. And then I said, "I've got to go, I've got to get off." And you know, afterwards, when you're being marked, I said, "Well, you could have had a bit more audience participation. You could have done this. You could have spoken. You could have expanded, maybe." No, because the reason I'm telling this story is because fundamentally that week changed my life, my spirituality, my spiritualism, the way I did things. But also I realized that there is no need to conform, because it's not about me practicing a structure and conforming to that, albeit, come on, we have to be able to have some form of structure for evidence, etc. I get that, amen. But this person, I had a personal agreement with this gentleman in spirit. And I firmly believe that if we work with spirit in a meaningful way like that, and be able to give, you know, an evidential message which was boom, 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 and the gentleman said he didn't want to do any more. So I got off the stage, and that may have been frowned upon, But I didn't care because, you see, I had that personal agreement and contract with Spirit. Why am I filming this? Why am I telling you this now? And I think a lot of it's to do with a number of things. One, my spiritual awakening hasn't been bright lights and big city. My development has been a lot of development from Spirit, which has been reaffirmed through the institutions, through the colleges, etc. But be yourself and realize that when we're working with Spirit, there's no one-size-fits-all policy. And actually, your relationship and commitment with Spirit can be on a one-to-one basis, as it can be in the physical as much as it can be in the spiritual. And I wouldn't change anything, even if I wouldn't have passed my exam or whatever the scenario was, because for me, seeing the face of that young man when I opened my eyes and his hand was in the air and telling me the confirmation and his name and everything else was worth much more than any certificate. And that is where I truly believe we have to start to really put the Spirit back into spirituality, raise the vibration and the quality of mediumship through mindfulness, through inner connection and relationship, through connection and relationship with Spirit in a way that is tangible, is equitable, and works. Because ultimately, when I send my light up, if I'm doing a reading or I'm working with somebody or I'm doing a rostrum or an audience or a charity evening, when my light goes up, I'm hoping they're saying, yeah, this guy's a good guy. Because when we ask for certain things, he delivers it. He doesn't showboat. It's not about ego. It's not about him. It's actually about delivering the right message in the right way with humility, love, and above all, with spiritual experience. And that for me was important. I can go through several things that happened to me on that week, but all I know is that when I came back, I wanted to understand exactly where I was. And it wasn't until I went to a local church and saw the standard of the mediumship the very next night that I realized that my mantra, my calling, wasn't so much about giving messages, although that is part and parcel of what I will always do. It was more about shaping the way in which we learn and develop ourselves in a spiritual, mediumistic, psychic way that is meaningful and resonates with those people around us. And that's important. And that's why I am absolutely humbled to be working, with so many people now since August of last year, and in particular November when I started to launch the teaching side of it. It has truly been amazing, and I thank everybody for that, and I come back to it. Don't accept mediocrity, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. But the one thing is, there's two actually, is let's just be authentic. Let's be intimate. Let's be real in a way that resonates with an audience that's out there today. Gordon Higginson said many, many years ago that let's not just let this be something good, but let's make it something that's amazing. And I do feel that we've let that man down over the last 30 years. We haven't advanced. In many ways, we've gone backwards. If you're lucky enough to live around the M25 corridor in the UK and around Arthur Findlay, Stansted, Luton, you are right in the centre of it, and the quality and the ability is streets ahead. But as those ripples in the pond ripple outwards, they get less, and the quality gets less, and the vibration gets less. So wherever you are in the world, whatever you're teaching or whatever you're trying to learn, do it with love, do it with passion, but be authentic, be intimate, be real, trust and surrender to Spirit, and allow the rest to flow. I think it's important. I think it's very important to go forward, to be able to leave a legacy that we can leave this place in a better position than when we came on this earth plane. And that's what we're all trying to do, as much with our physical as we are with our spiritual. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope you can take something out of it. And just remember, try and be love and give love. God bless you. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.